Hi, and welcome everyone to today's interview or conversation. I am looking forward to this topic. It is going to be tarot and how you can use tarot for personal growth and healing. And I have with me the beautiful Michele. And Michele, would you like to introduce yourself, maybe, first of all, who you are and the work that you do in the world?
Sure. My name is Michele Bourdo, and the work that I'm doing currently is spreading the word about the tarot and how it can be used for personal growth and development without really even having to know the meanings of the cards. Now, I genuinely support anyone who wants to learn those meanings. It definitely will flesh out and make your practice more rich. But there is a lot that can be gained just simply working with the cards in a very non-traditional way. And that's what I'm teaching people.
Yeah, thank you. I really love that approach. And that's why I wanted to especially invite you to this conversation, because I myself, I've had can you say, strained relationship with the tarot. I kind of
Sure.
had my first encounter with it when I was like 16, 17. And I had these cards and I kind of felt drawn to them, but I couldn't make sense of them. And in my family, like everything esoteric and woo-woo was kind of,
Mm-hmm.
no, that's real, not real, and imagination only. And so I dropped it. And it is only like 5, 6 years ago that I came back to really embracing my intuitive side and to getting in touch with oracle cards. So I first got into oracle cards, especially the Magic of the Earth oracle cards, because they had this representation of nature and nature's phenomenons that I could really like, that I have a connection with.
Mm-hmm.
And about half a year ago, a friend recommended me a tarot deck, which I got because I loved the imagery. And it finally started, like I'm finally finding my way with it and am ready and eager to explore more. And that's why I love that you say, like, even when you don't know the meanings of the cards, you can still use them
Right.
from the visuals to use in your personal life. How did you come to the tarot?
Oh, goodness. Well, kind of similar to you, I came to it in my younger years. But honestly, it was, is the guy that I met at the bar ever going to call me kind of tarot? That's how I was using it, right? Does he think I'm as hot as I think he is? And my practice at that point was to come up with some crazy question like that, to lay out a spread, and then to frantically dig through 4 or 5 different books, and then try to figure out how to synthesize all of that information into something meaningful for me. And I got frustrated with it. At that point, I didn't have the time or the inclination, and it sure as heck wasn't showing me where the cute guys were. So I sort of ditched it. And I came back to it, interestingly, though, just after my mother died. I started having, I don't know, things pop through. My intuition definitely kicked in more at that point. And I was really searching. You and I have talked about that dark night of the soul. And I was in a place where I was really struggling, looking for some way to make some meaning out of what was going on in my life. And I literally just said, somebody, universe, help me out, send me something, tell me what I'm supposed to be doing. I've been trying it my way all this time, and it's not working. And shortly after that, I was cleaning, dusting, and it was just like, boom, tarot cards, tarot cards, tarot cards, kind of that thing. So I dug out my old deck and then went out and bought another new one. And at that point, I decided I was going to learn the tarot inside and out from the very beginning, what do the suits mean? What do the kings mean? Blah, 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 blah. And figure out what I'm supposed to do with it, because it just felt like there was something that I was supposed to do with it. So that's kind of how I came to it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so often that it's the dark night of the soul that brings us back to who we truly are, like, and appreciating
Yes.
our gifts that we have.
Exactly. I had been working in a job that I didn't mind, but I was working with someone very challenging. And I was at a point in my life where I didn't feel the need to put myself through that type of position anymore. It's like, you're an adult woman, you can make choices. What do you want? Do you want to spend your days doing this, feeling like this, or do you want to do something different? And took a deep breath and quit, so.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, and you started learning all the meanings of the different cards.
I did. I nerded out in the biggest way. I had flashcards and I would quiz myself. And I mean, I did it like it was a job, I was sure I was going to figure it out. And actually, if I can just add something that is kind of interesting, one of the courses that I am putting together, and you can edit this if you don't want it in there. One of the courses I'm putting together is a flashcard course that is designed to help people learn how to read the tarot the traditional way, where people will be getting, you have a deck of cards and you would turn over, let's say you turn over a King of Wands. So you sort through your, there's a king and you put that down and there's a card that explains what it is. And basically you end up with a series of flashcards next to the card that you're trying to figure out. And you can create a meaning based on that, rather than having to go through 5 or 6 different books and create a meaning that way. So I'm not sure if that made any sense or not. I'm still trying to figure out how to articulate it. But the point being, it's a way to help people who want to learn how to learn to read the tarot in a way that is more user-friendly than flashcards like I learned.
Yeah. Well, what I gathered from it is also like it's your personal connection to the cards that's important and what you make of them. It's not like there is something written in stone just because there is a certain card, but it's also about how you uniquely make sense of them. Is that correct?
That is correct. There's sort of a marriage, I look at it anyway, as a marriage between intuition, gut instinct, all of the woo things that we talked about that are very real if you are willing to open up and listen to them. Alternatively, tarot can be very clinical. It can be very by the book. This is the card, this is the traditional meaning, and that is the one and only meaning. The way I choose to read is to integrate the two. I choose to use my intuition and try to open up and let that flow, but I also take into account the traditional card meanings, the symbolism, and all of those other things. So where someone lands on the tarot is really very much up to what what their personality is like. Maybe someone is very, very comfortable just being intuitive, like you were saying with the cards, and really going with the flow. Maybe, my personality is very analytical and linear in a lot of ways. So I really enjoyed having that structure of the tarot to learn as a foundation, where then I was able to, once I had that foundation, open up my intuition.
Yeah, I love how you describe it as this marriage, because I believe that it's energies like masculine energy and feminine energy that we all have both in us, in every human being, like the yin and the yang. And we need this kind of structure, a kind of structure as a riverbed for the intuition to flow through. And like for me also, like choosing or like pulling cards is a combination or a marriage of the two. Like my intuition helps me pick the card, and then I use my logical thinking, analytical brain to make sense of the card right now in my life.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that's what's so wonderful about the cards. You know, there is no right and wrong way to use them. There absolutely, people need to use them in a way that works best for them. And the only way to know is just to practice and play with them and have them in your life, I guess. You know, make them a part of your daily routine, and you will eventually learn what it is that is so appealing to you and take it in that direction.
So for somebody who is like completely new to all of this and who gets kind of curious about what tarot can do for them,
Right.
They go into a store and buy a tarot deck, but there are already so many out there, right? Like not just oracle cards, but even tarot is becoming like with all this different imagery. So would you say they just choose something that appeals to them?
I think that it depends what is their purpose for learning the tarot. If the purpose is the general, just learning how to use it as a tool for personal growth and development without really being concerned about the meanings, then any deck, tarot or oracle, whatever calls to your heart is the one to take. If you want to learn how to read cards traditionally, I always recommend people start out with a deck called the Rider-Waite deck. And it's ubiquitous. You can find it everywhere. And it's the standard deck on which most other decks are based, and the foundation on which a lot of books are written for those of you who want to learn how to use them from that perspective. So it really depends on what it is, what your goal is.
And so suppose they have now bought a deck, either or both.
Right.
You can buy as many
5
as
or
you
10
like.
decks.
I do. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
How do they start? Where do they start? Like when they want to use it for their personal growth?
Sure. Well, the first thing, well, let me see. I'll just take you through how I would do it. I would grab my cards and I would choose a space that feels good to me, a space that I feel comfortable in, where my pets aren't going to bother me, where my husband's not going to be knocking at the door, and just a space where I feel like I can relax and settle in. Personally, I like a little music, some incense, candles, that kind of stuff, crystals, whatever it is that feels good to you, that you want around you, is going to support you. So put yourself into that situation. Then what I do is choose my favorite deck and hold that deck in my hands for a few minutes while I am considering what it is I'm trying to accomplish here. My logic is that my energy seeps in to the cards as I'm doing that. And people will tell you that people who practice the tarot for a long time will tell you that they develop a relationship with their cards. And when I first heard that, I thought it was very strange, but it's true. You do develop, it's just a feeling, a vibe or whatever for your favorite decks. And it's sort of like coming home, you know, you grab, it's like, oh yes, oh, okay, here's my deck.
I so know what you mean with
Yes.
this like Earth Magic deck. It's like I can't use that to like pull cards for somebody else. It's mine.
Right.
It's my deck.
Exactly. Yes. And I also have decks that I never use for other people that are only mine. You know, I keep them separate. So I'm in my little spot and I've got all of my ambiance and I'm feeling good, holding my cards. Usually what I will do is write down the question, because if I don't write down the question, inevitably I forget exactly how it was phrased, and then I start questioning myself when I start to interpret things. And then take the cards and I just lay them out in front of me like a little kid turn them face up, smoosh them around on the table, and look and choose the cards that resonate the most with you in relationship to that situation. You're asking yourself questions. Try to come up with questions that are, you want to avoid yes and no questions. You're looking for, I struggle to articulate this sometimes. What you're looking for is cards that stand out to you as being representative of the situation that you're doing your reading about. So for example, you see a card that is a very stern looking woman sitting there holding a sword. She scares the bejesus out of you. She reminds you of your boss, and that's what your problem is. So you're going to pick that card. And you go through and you pick those cards. And then you're going back and you're looking at these cards and articulating. I would even recommend out loud, because that's the best way to, or write it down. Just start speaking. It's amazing to me when I'm getting started with a reading and I don't really know how to like get it started. Just start talking. Consider that recording yourself, and you're going to find that if you don't throttle your thoughts, and if there's no filter between your brain and your mouth, you're going to find that there are some gems in there if you just allow the speech to come sort of, again, opening up to whatever wants to come through in relationship to that. And from there, a lot of it is simply choosing additional cards. You know, maybe this card, you'd like a little bit more information. So what's another card that you can put with this Queen of Swords that you chose that would complement how you're feeling? You know, perhaps you've got a card, the Queen of Swords, with this very stern looking woman, and you're feeling intimidated. So you're going to choose a card that illustrates your feeling of intimidation. And it's kind of like, I don't even know how to articulate it. It's like brainstorming a solution for yourself with the universe. That's the best way I can articulate.
Wow. Yes. Wow. You can perfectly articulate that. It sounds amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, it is amazing. And it's a matter of, and this is the hard part, learning to trust yourself. Learning that what you see in a card is what you see in a card. It doesn't matter what someone else sees in that card. I can't even really explain it. It's just a way that if you can relax into it, I look at it almost like you're opening a channel. You're using the cards as a catalyst, and you're opening this channel in your mind for this information to come through. And what comes through is what you need to hear most of the time.
Yes. And so you've got this situation where you find yourself at right now, or in that moment, laid out there with one or several cards, as many as you feel appropriate to express where you're at. And how do you get to a solution? Do you like do the same process with where you would like to go and look for the related cards?
Sure. If you want, so yes, if you are looking for a solution, articulate your question in a way that will allow you to create some sub-questions. So for example, I'm having a difficult situation with my boss at work, and I want to know how to address that situation in a way that doesn't make me look like a whiny person, but you know, doesn't annoy the boss. So I'm looking for some questions. I'm thinking, well, who is it? You know, let me find a card here that represents my boss And this is where I'm looking at these 78 cards and I see this very stern looking woman. That looks like my boss. I'm going to choose her. Now, can I find a card that illustrates how I feel? Can I find a card that illustrates how I perceive their feelings to be? Can I find a card that makes me or helps me feel the way I want to feel? You know, what card is that? And eventually you start to look for it. You kind of look for the solution in a way. You can take traditional card readings, meaning, let's say, just a traditional 3-card reading, and you can use your tarot cards that way as well if you want very specific answers. So for example, let's say you're trying to make a decision, and what you do is you take your cards and you create 2 piles. This is the pile for yes, I should proceed. This is the pile for no, maybe I want to think about it again. And you just start laying out the cards and you'll start to see the patterns develop. You'll start to see the answers that you need will start to come. But really, truly, they're coming from inside. They're not coming from the cards. They're coming from your interaction with those cards, your thought process, the questions you're asking yourself. Yeah, I mean, it really is. People think tarot cards are, you know, this crazy occult thing. They're just pieces of paper with images on them, and we assign and use them however we want.
And the fun part is, what does occult mean? It just means hidden. So
yes.
Let's reveal it through the cards.
Yes, thank you for, yes, exactly. And I also think there are a lot of people talking about the occult name, nomer, whatever. Some people are intimidated by the cards. Some people think the cards are negative. Some people think they're whatever. They're not. They're just literally little pieces of paper. You could make your own tarot cards if you wanted to, right? There's nothing evil, occult, or dangerous about them whatsoever.
Yeah. And yeah, I think I get what you mean, that by choosing the cards, and I just want to say that again, that you mean having them face up, so having the pictures visible.
Yes.
And you choose according to, because in like most people teach, you pull a card with like face down. You don't know what you're pulling, you just pull something. But I love this approach of looking at them and organizing them in a way that represents like the kind of where you are at. And through this organizational process, and maybe other symbols that you find on the cards you're choosing, your mind, your whole system starts to reorganize itself to find some kind, because I guess most of us would look for a solution or a resolution or a how do I handle this situation. And by just looking at the different symbols, these answers of what we could do next come up, as you say, from inside.
Right. Yes, I think that articulates it well. Yes, it's very hard to articulate. Yes. The cards being face up is critical. Like you said, most people think of the tarot as the face down and they're flipping them over. It's frustrating to me. I love teaching it, but I feel like it's not a simple, clear-cut checklist type of teaching, right? So much of what we get out of the tarot is what we put into it emotionally, psychically, that type of thing. So I can explain it to people, but you really, really, really have to do it yourself. You have to spend some time And it's almost like, in a way, like letting your guard down for the information to start flowing in.
Yeah, and I imagine you could even just, when I think of personal growth and healing, you could just pick a card based on what draws me in today, like what draws me in the most out of all these cards. And
yes,
on some days it could be like a darker card, and on others it could be one that's more like colorful. And even on different days you might interpret them in different ways.
absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
And so,
Yes.
like, yeah, I get that it's a very personal relationship that you develop with these cards.
Mm-hmm.
But having this visual and being able to shuffle it around will shuffle something inside your system that
Right.
activates your intuition to come through with, as I said, steps that you might want to take next, or a different perspective you want to take
Right.
looking at your situation.
Exactly. It's also a nice tool to use for people with children. It's a great way, choosing an appropriate deck, of course. You know, you have a 3-year-old who can't find the words. Show me a picture that,
Oh,
show me how you
wow.
feel. Show me how you feel now, or show me how you want to feel.
Wow.
Show me, you know, those types of things. Therapy situations, lots of different applications if people can just sort of reframe the concept of what the tarot is.
And so if I understand that correctly, you would say in those situations when you don't want to learn the meanings by heart, it's like, don't even look at the book, just go with the cards and what comes through you in response to the cards, right?
Yes, absolutely. If you don't care about learning, if you just want to use them from the intuitive perspective, you don't even need to worry about the book. And you could literally choose any deck you want. You could take 3 decks and mix them up. You can do whatever you want. There are no rules. And yes, avoid the book, because if you start, the book may create situations where you're second guessing yourself. And if you want this to be a full-on intuitive relationship, energetic relationship with the cards, and you just want to use it for exploring your own personal growth and development, I wouldn't even pick the book up. I would stick it in the closet.
And I love your reminder that, like, we are the boss of ourselves. We are the interpreters here, and
Yes.
we give it the meaning that we want to.
Exactly.
And like, because I've had those situations where I pulled a card and I interpreted it, and then I had a look at the book and I was like, no, doesn't really resonate. Okay,
right.
screw the book. I take the meaning that I want to take out of it.
Good,
but we
because
have to like remember that we are able to choose.
Well, and most people would say, oh no, I'm wrong, you know, and then yes, so exactly. You know, it's
please trust your own intuition, to everybody watching and listening.
Exactly. My daughter, who is now 28 and 6 foot tall, used to do gymnastics, and she was not very coordinated, and she would do her little cartwheel and it would go That's how I do it. That's how I want people to look at the tarot. This is how I do it, not this is how everybody else does it.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And
so,
isn't it like, for me, that's the embodiment of healing, because for me, healing is peeling away all the layers that's not you. So there's only you, and that's the healing part. And as you say, ta-da, this is me, this is how I do it. And that's fine for me.
Right. Exactly. You're not hurting anyone else by doing it your way. So, you know, I don't want to generalize. So many people spend so many years being what everybody else thinks they should be and who they should be and behaving that way. And the tarot's helped me really figure out who I am. you know, in a way that everyone else isn't telling me. Well, no, they are still telling me. I'm just not listening as much.
Yeah, that's the thing. Once you realize, okay, this is my interpretation and it feels good, like it sits well in my body, it feels correct.
Exactly.
You start listening and attuning more to that feeling, this full body yes, and tuning out what other people say.
Right.
And of course, there are still situations where you get derailed.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I don't know what to do. When you get out the book and you start freaking out, yes. But, you know, eventually we all regain our sanity and come back. But yeah, if just two people can learn and get something out of it the way I did, then it's worth it to me to put the information out there.
Yeah. And maybe as a not yet a closing question, but like, when would you suggest or recommend people actually get the book and look at the book? I mean, like, what's the benefit of learning all these meanings or part of the meanings by heart?
It's a good question. I think it really depends on why you are using the tarot. If you want to read for someone else, I really suggest learning the meanings and doing it the traditional way. It's a catch-22. So by knowing all of the meanings, by, you know, let's say I have I don't know, a Queen of Wands in my hand. There's so much symbolism above and beyond just the traditional card meaning that when you begin to integrate the traditional meaning, the symbolism, your intuition, it's a richer reading than if you are just reading from an intuitive perspective. I find it's a little bit easier to ask questions that are designed to help me choose which direction to go in. But it really just depends on the situation, right? I mean, there are times when I just want to look at it and think about how I'm feeling. And then there are times when I'm struggling with making a decision and I'll do a traditional tarot spread that will help me articulate that.
Thanks for that example. That's like that you have
Sure.
the different ways you can use it when you also know the meanings. That makes a lot of sense.
Right, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah,
so if people would like to have a reading or learn more about it or get in touch with you for that course you spoke about, where can they find you? What's your preferred way of being contacted?
Sure. Contact me on pretty much any of the social media sites. Instagram seems to be the one that most people find me on. In terms of the courses, right now I am literally in the middle of putting together a curriculum that begins with this course that we talked about today, which is the, learning the tarot, using the tarot with no meanings. And from there, we're stepping into learning to use the cards with the flashcards that I've developed, and probably one or two more classes. And then there will be a master class for those people who really want to dig in and learn all of the intricacies and the history and all of that. So that's sort of what I'm working on right now. My current website has a link to a fun class it's a birth card tarot course. So you can hop online and you can determine using numerology what your birth card is. And then you can look at your birth card similar to the way you would look at your sun sign. And there's information about all of the different, what is your birth card's characteristics? What would be a fantastic job opportunity? What would they be good at? What type of people do they mix with? So all of those are sort of things that are out there. The birth card course is available now on my moxiecoaching.com website. And let me think. I think that's about it. Most everything I do is on the website. I do have a podcast as well that is 100% dedicated to teaching the tarot. We talk about literally an entire curriculum. We talk about every single card in the deck for those who are interested in learning. But there are also episodes that are talking about just different ways to use the cards, different ways to interact with them from more of a psychological or an emotional standpoint. So that's kind of who I am and what I have out there.
Wow, yeah, I will definitely link to everything in the show notes or in the description. And yeah, depending on when people find this video, maybe all those courses are already out there.
I hope so. We've got the one. I've got too many in the works at the same time, but yes.
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to exploring more of that and to trying out this version of looking at the cards face up and finding more about my thought processes.
I would love to hear how it goes for you. I would love to just, it's like, I don't get this, or I do, this is wonderful, or I hate it, or whatever it is that works for you. So,
well, I'll definitely get in touch.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Do you maybe, as a closing word, have a message you would like to share with the listeners and watchers, or just something that you feel needs to be said right now?
Well, I'm hoping that this made sense. I know that it's kind of a nebulous way of reading the cards. So I do hope that it made sense and that it's helpful for everyone. But more than anything, if you're interested, grab yourself a deck, give yourself a break, just enjoy and open up to what the cards can do for you. That's it.
Beautiful. Yes. And like, I understand it sounds maybe nebulous, and that's part of life. Like, everything is born from this void or chaotic place. We just, like, our brains are a little afraid of everything that's somewhat nebulous. And it weirdly makes sense once you do it and you tap into this nebulous
Exactly.
energy.
Yes. Well, good.
Thank you so much for having been here tonight, Michele.
Thank you so much for having me. I greatly appreciate it. And I am looking forward to figuring out a take on the tarot that will work with what you're doing. So we can maybe blend the two, a tarot reading for, I don't know, we'll have to think about that, and then have you on the Moxie podcast.
Cool. Yes, I would love to be there.
Wonderful. All right. I'll have to think about it.
So have a beautiful day, everybody, and speak next time.